Have you ever noticed how when someone tries to replay a certain song, like the melody or something, it doesn't tend to sound the same as the original, like at all? The character, the timbre, all of that is off. Like you will still be able to tell what song it is, but it doesn't sound exactly like it.
That was the first part that you heard, and then this is the second. With the click, and everybody want to know what the click is.
That's because of the processing. Just playing something in G is not the same as playing it in B and pitching it down or pitching it up to G. Making something in 120 BPM or making it in 180 BPM and slowing it down to 120. Those two aren't the same. And with these processors, you can really manipulate your samples to give them more depth and more of a specific vibe. And this is what I'm going to be explaining through this sample that I'm going to break down. So the first sound I used was from Virtu Acoustics. This is a very, very old library, but it's still very good if you know how to use it properly. So I played these notes in a faster BPM, I believe 136. I opened multiple of them so that I can like layer them a bit better. So yeah, I played these notes and I'm just gonna show you what that sounds like on 136 BPM because that's what I recorded it in. When I recorded this, it already had effects on it, and these are the effects it had. So I started off with a sound shifter. I pitched it down by 7. When I use these type of guitars, that's another point. I always tend to pitch it down because it gives it quite a nice tone. I transpose it to pitch it back down. I'm gonna go into further detail about this in another video, but yeah, that's a good thing to be doing. Of course, I went in with a reverb, my classic reverb. Sheps, a CLA2A, RC20, a flanges. So I added this reverb. This is my favorite reverb preset, and yeah, I just wanted it to sound like it was in a room before I compressed it. And then I added my favorite preamp, Sheps 73, just to boost certain frequencies, make it how I wanted it to be. And then I went in with my CLA2A, which I always use, as you know. Went in with some RC20 just to warp it a bit, and I went in with a flanges. And then I went in with another Valhalla vintage verb just to make it a bit more decayed, slightly more, same, I believe, no, not the same preset, a different preset, but yeah, just to give it a bit more ambience. Then I obviously cut off some of the lows and the highs. So yeah, then I recorded it in with my Edison. I recorded it in, and that's what you heard. So once I recorded this guitar on Edison, I slowed it down to 112 by stretching it using this mode. I love this mode. And I pitched it down by 2 semitones. Pitched it down by 2 semitones. Here's what it sounds like without effects. Then I added this preset on Beam. Beam is like, it's kind of like Portal, just to give it some more like tail and ambience. And then I put a CLA2A, a flanger, a Toria, one of my favorite VSTs. I used the brass flanger. This goes to show that you don't really need to read too much into the titles of the presets. Just go by your ear. I automate the flanger. I automate it just to come in at certain points with this, so it's not always on. Then I went in with this Valhalla vintage verb. Again, one of my favorite presets. Then of course I cut off the highs and the lows. Then I actually ran it through another sound shifter to pitch it up by 3. And this is what it sounded like altogether. So yeah, as you can hear, the effects and the constant rendering now, pitching down, stretching, adding more effects and then layering more effects on top of that, you know, it's really giving it so much texture and just depth rather than just playing it in with your VST and just using it as it is. I could have just transposed it to this key from the beginning, but it definitely wouldn't have sounded like this. This is why when you hear certain songs and you hear the guitar and then you try to play every single note exactly the same as the guitar in that song, it still doesn't sound the same. So yeah, with that same exact guitar, I just sliced certain pieces to give it a bit more rhythm and just fill in some of the gaps. Just using the same guitar. I'm using everything I'd already done already, and I'm just using that as material to create more. So yeah, it's the exact same, but just a bit more rhythmic and a bit less spaces in it. Just a quick point, when I'm doing this, I tend to leave really small gaps within it. I do it sparingly, I don't always do it, but just in little pockets. You see, I'll just put like a completely blank space. It just makes it sound a bit more, it makes certain notes sound a bit more spontaneous when they come in. I then ran these ambient keys from Hug through like multiple like portal presets to come up with something. Here's what it sounds like originally. Yeah, so I ran it through these effects, so like multiple portal presets, not just this one. Then flanges, and I cut off some of the lows and the highs. I recorded it into Edison. Like recording stuff into Edison and manipulating it is a really good way of coming up with new sounds and textures. So I do that quite a lot. So yeah, through a lot of stretching, reversing, further manipulation, I came up with this texture. And also this texture. I ran them both through a Pro Q3 just to remove some of the harsh sounds in it and also cut off the lows and the highs. Then I also went in with a CLA2A, of course. So then I made this texture. I'm not gonna lie to you, this happens quite a lot sometimes. If you create samples just like me, you know what I'm talking about. I don't really know how I made this, I can't remember, but yeah, this is what I made. No clue what that was, but Edison was on at the right time. I then just ran that through a Pro Q3, of course, cutting off some of the lows and highs. Simple. Okay, so at this point in the sample, I was thinking, okay, I need some low end. And I was thinking I needed a synth bass. But instead of finding a synth bass, I did something different. I said, let me make a synth bass. Let me make it from scratch instead of just doing that, you know? This is where I started really processing a lot as well. So yeah, what I used is my beloved Modo bass. I used this violin bass. I played this. So at this point, you're probably thinking, oh, yeah, this is not a synth bass, it's just a bass guitar, right? Yeah. I added these effects. So I went in with a Koi Wong as usual, just to boost certain frequencies a bit and yeah, just further manipulate it how I wanted it to be. Then the star of the show, I went in with a thermal. I use this VST a lot, probably my favorite effect for sure. And I use this preset. I crank this up to the top. And then I use this ozone imager just to spread out the frequencies, some of the frequency bands. I didn't want them all in the same stereo. I did this EQ curve. With all that being done, this is what the bass sounds like now. Now, I don't know about you, but if I heard that I would say that's a synth bass. 100%, you could not convince me otherwise. But nah, as you saw, that was a bass guitar. And don't be afraid to do those type of things. People always completely change sounds into other sounds. The classic is like changing like a electric guitar to like a bass guitar by pitching it down. Why not? Why not? Why not? I then went in with this Multikey from Maxu and Keon. Here's what I played. Okay, last but not least are the vocals. If you didn't see already my last video, I explained what I do for my vocals. So I normally go in with an auto-tune. So I record with this on. So I normally go in with an auto-tune at a lower key. Then I use an RVox. And then I use a DSR. So yeah, and then I make sure to press post effects so that it records with it on. So when I did that, this is what they sounded like.
Tell you all the one for me. Tell you all the one for me.
I'm just saying any nonsense and I just layered them together. When you layer stuff together, it makes it sound like you can sing more. Yeah, it's just the same idea with a choir. 20 bad singers singing together is better than one bad singer singing by himself. After that, I added effects to it and then it sounded like this. I'll show you the effects after.
Tell you all the one for me. Tell you all the one for me.
So yeah, that's with effects, and the effects I added, of course I added a sound shifter. That's what I was saying. So I recorded it in a lower key and I pitched it up to this key. That wouldn't have been the same as me recording in this key. It would not have sounded like that if I did that. So that's why I did it from a lower key to a higher key. It's really maths.
Music is all math.
A point with my vocals is that normally what I do is that I get rid of the sibilants and this is English. I can't remember. What did I used to learn? Fricatives. Yes, fricatives. The sibilants and the fricatives, man. Look at me, man. The fricatives. So basically the S's and the F's. And also like the plosives. Makes it a bit more like muffled. You know, it's one of those things that shouldn't sound better, but it kind of does. Let me create an analogy. You know when you used to get those like afro fades and that, them afro like skin fades and that, and you always used to comb your hair, like fully comb it out. And then one day when you're young, maybe your older brother or your friend or someone just said, nah bro, just leave it messy. Don't comb it out. Maybe even sponge it just to make it a bit more, you know what I'm saying, messy. It shouldn't look as good, but it actually makes it look better. That's basically what this is. Shouldn't sound as good, but it makes it sound better. No, I'm yapping, man. I'm yapping. So, this is what the final sample sounds like. So that wraps this video up. If you have any more ideas for videos, right now I'm still gonna continue this series, but I definitely am gonna, load up a few other styles of videos. So yeah, just let me know what you want to see. With that being said, see you guys later.